Russia's President Vladimir Putin has met with his Iranian counterpart, President Masoud Pezeshkian, for the first time. The two leaders held face-to-face talks at a regional summit in Turkmenistan, where they joined a number of heads of state from other Central Asian and Arab states. The Kremlin said the Russian and Iranian presidents discussed mutual relations as well as the situation in the Middle East. The meeting comes amid soaring tensions in the region, with Israel engaged in a war with the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah. Well, ties between Russia and Iran have strengthened since the Kremlin sent troops into Ukraine in 2022, with Tehran widely believed to be supplying Moscow with weapons. But these growing ties have proved to be a delicate balancing act for the Kremlin.
Russia and Iran. Isolated by the West, the two countries are increasingly turning to each other for help.
They don't understand or like each other very much, but the very need for cooperation is a stable basis for the development of their relationship.
Ties have deepened since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine more than 2 years ago. Iran is supplying Moscow with weapons, a move that has been heavily criticized by the West in Ukraine.
No other state has willingly helped Russia in its war on Ukraine more than Iran has. The fact that Iran most recently provided short-range ballistic missiles to Russia, that is a major escalation, in addition to the earlier provision of drones, because that has enhanced Russia's ability to wage war in Ukraine.
Russia has increasingly been inviting Iranian officials to events. Analysts say it's an attempt to show that Moscow is not isolated. But it's not clear if Russia will back Iran in the event of a full-scale war with Israel.
Moscow is not ready to come to Iran's aid, especially at the cost of a possible clash with Israel and the US. There is not much that Russia can do anyway. Direct military involvement is completely ruled out. Russian forces could only help pro-Iranian units to repel Israel strikes in Syria.
Moscow has also signaled it wants to avoid further escalation in the Middle East.
All parties should abandon provocative actions and show restraint, in line with the well-known decisions of the United Nations and its Security Council.
But experts say the Kremlin is profiting from the tensions in the region.
The ongoing chaos in the Middle East is to Putin's benefit. He's not simply taking advantage of it, he's actually actively fueling it because it distracts Western attention from Ukraine. It erodes American credibility. And it also forces the United States and its partners to expend some of its most expensive weaponry.
Moscow is undoubtedly keeping a close eye on the Middle East. But at this point, it's unlikely Russia will spend any more resources in the region than it has to.
For more on this story, I'm joined now by DW correspondent Natalia Smolentceva, who filed that report for us. She joins us from Riga, where DW moved its Moscow bureau when we were banned from reporting from inside Russia. Natalia, how important is this meeting between the Russian and Iranian leaders?
So this meeting, Terry, just ended more than an hour ago. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said the relations between Russia and Iran are both strategic and sincere, and Vladimir Putin stressed that these relations are now a priority for Russia, and their views on the affairs are quite similar. Iranian president also accepted an invitation from his Russian counterpart to visit the country, and he in fact will be visiting it very soon. In the end of the month, a BRICS summit happens in Kazan, and earlier this year, Iran has formally joined this bloc of major emerging economies. So Russia and Iran are expected to sign an agreement on strategic partnership there, and the talks might have already been happening today. And the countries are increasingly dependent on each other, both militarily, as we heard, and diplomatically, and they repeatedly say they plan expanding trade and economic cooperation. But no matter what the practical outcome of this concrete meeting is, it is a strong political signal that they're not isolated by the West.
So I understand that Russia and Iran discussed the Middle East. What is Russia's stance on the Middle East right now, given the potential for massive escalation between Iran and Israel?
So historically, actually, President Vladimir Putin and Russia has played the role of so-called peacekeeper in the region, having close relationship to multiple actors that are usually conflicting parties in the region. But after the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel, Russia is increasingly leaning closer to the anti-American forces in the region, this being Iran, its proxies, and the Assad regime in Syria. In fact, Russian military base in Syria was nearly attacked by Israel missiles, and many have been speculating whether this can lead to further escalations. But these airstrikes were not deliberately aimed at the airbase, and experts say neither Russia nor Israel would want this escalation. However, Russia is monitoring very closely the events that happen in the Middle East and whether it will assist further to Iran is remain to see. But from what I've heard from the experts in the region, for now, Russia will be an observer and won't engage militarily there.
Natalia, thank you very much. That was DW's Natalia Smolentceva from Riga.